So I've been thinking about something this morning after I advised somebody to try getting hold of some cross blood games, and that is that sometimes I see people list crosses that they've made and the math doesn't add up on them. They'll say, oh, this bird's 2/3 this and a third this, or, you know, 5/16 this and this and this, and it doesn't add up in the end. So I'm going to walk you through how to figure what the percentages are on your crosses. I'm going to start off with just a half and half cross, and then I'm going to breed it back to one side in this example. So I've never been good at math, but fractions have always stuck with me, and I don't know why. But here's how you do it. So we're going to cross a log gray to a Sid Taylor. So each one of these birds is pure, so that's 1 of 1. Okay, now you're going to take those two 1 of 1s and add them together. And there's the bottom one is how many parts you've got, and then, you know, your total parts. And then the top is how many parts of that particular blood. So by going 1 and 1, we obviously have 2 parts to work with, and it should be the same top and bottom. That's how you know you've got the right math. So all you got to do is take and add these together here. You get 2, so your bottom number is going to be 2. Now your top numbers, they're not going to change here. So we've got a half gray, half Sid. And the easiest way to remember this bottom number is just think of it as how many direct ancestors that bird has. So right now your half and half bird has the father and the mother, so that's 2. Now we're going to take your half and half and breed it back to the Sid Taylor side. So we're going to go half and half plus a 1 over 1, and you can see these two numbers don't match. So then we got to change it so they match. So you've got a half and half and a 2 over 2. Okay? So now what you do is you add up your top numbers here. So it's 4. So that tells you that your bottom number needs to be 4, because at the end you want the bird to be 4 over 4, like this. Okay, so now what we've produced is a bird that is a quarter gray, quarter Sid, so that's the dad, and then the mom's side is now 2 over 4 on Sid. So you're going to add these two Sids together here, and your resulting offspring is a quarter gray, 3/4 Sid. And another thing to keep in mind with these numbers is with the bottom number, just think of it as it's going to double every generation. So you're going to go 1 to 2 to 4 to 8 to 16 and so on. So now we're going to breed it back to the Sid blood again. So we've got a quarter and 3/4 times a 1 over 1. We got to change this again. So then we've got a quarter, 3/4, and a 4 over 4. Well, that adds up to 8. So that tells us our bottom number's got to be 8. So then we end up producing a 1/8, 3/8, and 4/8. And we're going to add that 3 and that 4 together. So that bird is now 1/8 gray, 7/8 Sid Taylor. Okay. Now we're going to get a little more complex here. I'm going to do a 3-way cross on my next example. We're going to start off with that same cross, log gray over Sid Taylor. So we're going to go half gray, half Sid. Now we're going to breed hatch blood into it. So as a result, we've got a half and half plus a 1 over 1, which we then have to change to a half and half plus a 2 over 2. Which, when you get everything added up, it's 4, so we know the bottom number has to be 4. So that produces a quarter gray, quarter Sid, and then 2/4 hatch. Well, You never see anyone list 2/4. You round it down as much as you can. So actually, you would list that bird as a quarter gray, quarter Sid, half hatch. Now we're going to take it and breed it back to the gray side. So we're going to go quarter gray plus quarter Sid plus half hatch, which we have to change back to 2/4 to make this equation work, and then a 1/1 on the gray, which then turns into quarter gray, quarter Sid, 2/4 hatch, and 4/4 gray. Well, you add those top numbers up, you're going to get 8. Because remember, this is 2/4 here, not half on the hatch. So then your final equation for that would look like this: 1/8 gray, 1/8 Sid, 2/8 hatch, 4/8 gray. So the resulting offspring on that would be 5/8 gray, because you're going to add this one to this one, 1/8 Sid, and 2/8 hatch, which you then round down and say it's a quarter hatch. So this bird would be 5/8 gray, 1/8 Sid, quarter hatch. Okay? And again, like I said, the bottom number, just keep it in mind as how many direct ancestors that bird has. So basically add up its parents, grandparents, great-grandparents on mother and father's side, going back to when you made the initial cross. And that's how you're going to double check that number. Now, another thing I wanted to talk about was, I understand a lot of folks, when they start off, they get curious about crossing different bloodlines, and this is where collecting those old magazines come in handy, and also reading discussions on threads. Just use the little search bar on Facebook in your gamefowl groups, because a lot of times, especially if you've been in it a little bit online for a while, you're going to see the same questions asked over and over again. And it'll be something like this. Somebody will come on, has anybody crossed a Kelso to a sweater? Lots of people have. And rather than starting a new thread, you might want to just do a search first and see what's already been said. And some of these bloodlines, they haven't been as popular in the past. Back in the days, there used to be a lot of guys that do claret to hatch, or hatch roundhead, or whatever. So just because people aren't making that cross now doesn't mean it hasn't been done before. Basically, just assume that you are not the first person to have ever thought to cross two bloodlines together. I don't care if it's pumpkin to Velcro, or muff to henny. It's been done before by somebody somewhere. These birds have thousands of years of history, and a little detective work can save you a lot of trouble. Now, that isn't to say, I understand it's exciting to talk these birds, and they discuss breeding and that kind of thing, and people's bloodlines change over the years. Case in point, I know a guy who always brings up Koopman Toppies as an example. He knows some old timers who were around when the original Koopman Toppies were bred. And he said most of the Koopman Toppies that are out there today do not fit the photographs that these old men have of the original Koopmans. And in knowing the genetics of the coloration of them, it's easy to say that a lot of these bloodlines that are out there now probably have had infusions of other bloodlines. And I'll go ahead and let's talk about infusing there for a minute. So infusion, generally what that means is you're breeding a small percentage of a bloodline into a bloodline you already like. Case in point, we go back to this original cross here. We're at 7/8 Sid Taylor. Now, you could keep breeding back to the Sid Taylor side until you hit the ideal mixture of traits that you're after. And in my opinion, once you get past a quarter of blood down to an eighth or a 16th or 32nd, I consider that an infusion. You're not really trying to make your own bloodline so much as improve something that's existing. And other people have different definitions of that. Some people say, well, I've got Marsh butchers and I bred Bill Roberts butcher in them, and that's an infusion because it's the same bloodline but from a different source. The thing with that is Bill Roberts butchers already had other blood bred into them aside from the Marsh butcher, and that's why his produce brassy backs and whites. The Marsh butcher can produce a spangle once in a while, but they never actively bred for it. Another example would be all these different bloodlines of hatch. You know, I'm not saying they're not good birds. They really are. But the point I try to make with people is it almost seems like people use the word hatch in their breeding as a crutch. Because if you look at how different so many of these hatch bloodlines are from the original Sanford hatch birds, you know, history-wise, there's a lot more blood that's been introduced into them than the original bird. The original hatch, from what I've read, was a white hackle and brown red cross. There's some debates on that, but that seems to be the overwhelming theory. And that just goes to show, going back to the whole asking questions about what kind of crosses should I do. I've seen guys cross Sid Taylor to White Hackle. I've seen, myself personally, I crossed Black McCrae over my Morgans. You're basically doing the same thing that Mr. Hatch did. You're crossing dark birds to light birds to produce a superior bird. And then you look at basically any of your peacomb families. I still see people asking about what's everybody's opinion on an Aseel grade. And a grade is another type of breeding where you are basically crossing in deliberately, but instead of breeding down all the traits but the one you're after, as in with an infusion, a grade is trying to blend traits from two very different birds, Orientals and what they call Bankivoids or Bankiva fowl. Bankiva basically just means birds that resemble the red jungle fowl and come from that lineage. So all American, Irish, Spanish, English, Scottish, whatever, are pretty much Bankivas except the roundhead. If it's got a straight comb, it's basically a Bankiva, in other words. So with a grade, what you are doing is you are trying to breed in traits from the Aseel, or what we commonly call a Jap, which is a Shamo. Sometimes you'll see people do it with Thai. Once in a blue moon, you'll come across somebody who uses Madagascar game, but they're all in the Oriental family. And the goal is to produce a superior bird, and the Aseel is naturally very well muscled and tough and strong, but their downsides, in particular from production standpoint, is they're notorious for being poor layers. Great mothers, but poor layers. So by breeding to the American game, you're trying to get the best of both worlds. And there's people who still have doubts about Aseel grades, and it always kind of makes me chuckle because so many of the popular bloodlines out there today have Aseel influence. Anything that has a pea comb has Aseel influence, plain and simple. And it's in your sweaters, it's in your Kelsos, it's in your hatch, in your pea comb grays, you know. And I'll see guys who have these bloodlines say, well, what's everybody's opinion on grading to an Aseel? Your birds already have Aseel in them, folks. I guess the only question is, are you wanting to put more Aseel into them? First birds I had for game fowl were half Aseel, half lacy roundhead. So the Aseel build and temperament was very strong in those birds. Um, just built like tanks. I mean, just nothing but muscle. But anyhow, I hope this little math lesson did not bore you too much. And thanks for watching. Have a good one.